I have a confession to make. The first time I heard of this story of one man, Abwana Tom Mako, wedding two women on the same day, I was disgusted. I didn't even want to know the details. And it is not because I'm very good. It's not because I'm better than other men. Yeah. It's not because I want to please the lady subscribers on this channel by the way I talk. No. That's just me. And there's a very good reason. Almighty God has blessed me with two very beautiful daughters. And when I see stories like this, the first thing I think, yeah, you can guess, I think of my daughters. And now you understand why I was disgusted. Because I was imagining, what if one of those very beautiful ladies, when Tom Mako got married to on the same day, was my daughter? What would I have felt? And of course, there's some people here, yeah, who would not have allowed me to ignore this story. At one point, Hezron told me, sasa nitaongea kama watu wa Ruto. Chris, upende usipende, lazima utafanya hii story. Chris, sasa itabidi nifanye thorax. Nitumie thorax. Kwa nini hutaki kufanya hii story? Very many interested Kenyans wanataka kusikia hii story. Hata wale wazungu naona wanakuja kwa channel yako wanataka kusikia hii story. Hii ni interesting story. Usituletee vitu zako personal hapa. Hii channel ni public. Na hii kitu imefanyika Kenya, it is big news in Kenya. You must cover it. Now, I started this video by saying I had a confession. Because in many ways, Hezron is right. This channel is bigger than me. And my personal feelings, if I can put it like that. However, what really convinced me to do this video was when I realized it opens the door to speak about very many issues in Kenya today. But first of all, let us get the facts right. Bwana Tom Mako is 27 years old. Yeah, he's widely known as Junior. And in the widely publicized wedding, he got married to Elizabeth Silamoi, who is 24 years old, and the big wife, or wife number one. You know, the Maasai are polygamous by nature, yeah, and they're very particular. The first wife is shown more respect, ile bibi mkubwa, as they say, or the big wife. And the second bride was Joyce Tikoyan. Tikoyan, hey, these Maasai names. And she is 23 years old. Both are very young. Now, Elizabeth Silamoi, the first wife, only went up to Form 3. Why? Courtesy of this man. Yeah. Tom Mako yanked her out of school before she could finish. While it is true she's a beauty, this is very wrong. Angewacha amalize shule. Although it takes two to tango, she accepted to leave school. Yeah, because the second wife refused, and she insisted on finishing Form 4. Yeah, Joyce. Now, something else very important you should know. Yeah, these are people who have already been living together. Yeah, as husband and two wives. The two wives have separate houses. And there's irrefutable evidence that Bwana Tom Mako amekuwa akiiba. My late political lecturer would have known precisely what I mean. Yeah, because it was one of his pet subjects. Yeah, stealing, yeah, and partaking, yeah, of something that does not belong to you. Now, many men are guilty of this. Yeah, I'm not even holier than thou. Even me, at one point, I was guilty of this. Anyway, that's a story for another day. So the evidence is that both women have two children each. In fact, the eldest child of the first wife is 6 years old. This man has been stealing and partaking that which does not belong to him for 6 long years. Anyway, now that we have the facts, let's now get into the nitty-gritty. Let's now handle the big issues related to this amazing story. Yeah, and we'll do that immediately after the short upcoming brief commercial break. Don't go away. Now, the first thorny issue I would like to handle, is the fact that very few people realize that one of the biggest causes of trouble in marriage, biggest unknown and unseen causes of trouble in marriages today, are parents of the daughter. In many instances, they push their daughters to get married. I know of one particular case, and actually I heard this being said and I couldn't believe my ears or my eyes. The parents of a 19-year-old girl were telling their daughter, umechelewa kuolewa. Translation, you're late. You should have got married a long time ago. Can you imagine that? 19 years old? And the people I'm talking about are not even Maasais. Because Maasai girls get married very young. Now, in my view, the issue with this pressure, is the psychological impact it has on our girls. You meet a man, and your instincts are telling you no, no, no. Women have a sixth sense. Your sixth sense is telling you, if you get married to this man, it is trouble. And so, what pushes her into making a decision, is the fact that, let me just do it. My parents will be happy. And this is finally confirmed, by the comment of the parents, when she breaks the news. Finally, I was getting worried. And then when things go very wrong, it's the same parents who say, you should never have married that man. You should have thought twice. You should have known this about the man before you accepted to get married to them. Bottom line, if you're a parent listening to this, your daughter does not have to get married. Forget what the villagers are going to say. Forget what the neighbors are going to say. Are you going to peg the happiness of your precious daughter on what the neighbors are going to say? As my political lecturer would have said, what rubbish! The other very serious source of pressure, to girls to get married or to women to get married is from their friends. I'm telling you, some women can be devils. A woman has gotten married, she's having hell on earth, in her marriage. She's not enjoying it at all. And she decides, my single friends are too happy. Therefore I'm going to make their lives miserable. And so, even after the proper beating she received last night for absolutely nothing, or maybe for trying to grab her husband's phone. Yes. This is a big issue. Grabbing your husband's phone? Yeah. And even in cases where you have access to the phone, there's a password everywhere. To enter WhatsApp, Facebook, another 4 passwords. Messenger, a 12-digit password. Anyway, so she pretends to her single friends that she's very happy, and she keeps on dropping hints and sometimes openly telling them, sasa wewe, utaolewa mwaka gani? Are you going to get married when you're 80 years old? Wewe utakimbizana nao mabentens mpaka lini? In my view, a woman should never, ever, ever have pressure to get married. This is a serious commitment. You have to meet the right person, and you have to be very, very sure. Now, of course, the other reason for pressure on women to get married is nobody's fault. The truth is, in many parts of the world, there are too many available single ladies and too few men ready to get married and settle down. And so, the result is chaos. Because what happens, and I've covered this in a very controversial previous video on this channel, there is something which psychologically happens to women. They subconsciously become very competitive. And this has nothing to do with their characters. It is all nature. When something is in short supply, naturally, people will compete for it. That's nature. That's human nature. And sometimes this competition comes out in different ways. For instance, in the way women dress. Now, not all the time, but sometimes the way women dress, is a symptom of this pressure. And it results in competition as to who will wear the shortest skirt. And it results in aggression amongst women never before seen. Of course, the shorter your skirt, the more chances of you attracting attention. You have an edge over those with longer skirts. And then with phrases, you hear phrases like, kwani haunitaki? Loose translation, you mean you don't want me. That is a young lady telling a man. Now, I'm fully aware of the fact that to younger listeners and viewers of this channel, that is normal. But in my days, and especially in Hezron's days, that was unheard of. In my younger days, I was absolutely 1000% sure that girls were not interested in boys and would never be interested in boys. You had to work very hard to get their attention and interest. It is only the other day, very recently in my old age, that I discovered that in fact, naturally, women are even more interested. Now, this is the kind of environment we live in, that would have allowed these gorgeous lasses to accept this very shameful scenario where they get married, they're in wedding dresses, they get married to the same man on the same day, not even on different days. It is the same pressure that has made mpango ya kando or side dishes normal. And yet they are not normal, and they will never be normal. It is interesting how there's so much evidence all around us that so many things can go wrong when a man steps out of their marriage, to have a side dish or whatever it is. But people still insist on making it sound and look as normal as possible. Shauri yenyu. In fact, in this kind of environment, Bwana Tom Mako has done the right thing. Instead of having a mpango wa kando, he has made it official. He doesn't have to sneak around and put passwords on his phone. Now that brings us to something else very important. Don't copy something you don't understand. The Maasai community are successfully polygamous. They marry many wives. But then the truth is, all other communities, most of the other communities have serious problems with polygamy. I heard a pastor say once that immediately you marry more than one wife, when you marry two wives, you automatically invite witchcraft into your family. And this witchcraft is going to affect your children, generations and generations to come. Now, for somebody with a spiritual eye, this is very easy to see. Because when you have two women and one man, there'll naturally be competition. One will always try to prove to be better than the other. And when they have children, they'll always fight for their children to be preferred, to get preferential treatment. They will fight tooth and nail for the limited resources within the family. Because even if the man is rich, resources are never unlimited. So how come it works so well with the Maasai? Well, the Maasai have a very strict code of conduct. For instance, as I've mentioned earlier in this video, there's always the big wife, mke mkubwa. There's a hierarchy. The first wife can even give instructions to the second wife, and the second wife has to follow those instructions. And then you come along, you want to do the same thing, you have no idea about how it is done with the Maasai. And therefore, you invite curses, tragedy, all kinds of crazy things into your family. yeah, and into the lives of the children you love. And the result is they will end up suffering immensely, yeah, for decisions, yeah, very ill-advised decisions you made. And 100 years from now, when you're long gone, they'll still be suffering for that single mistake you made. Hey, to me, that is horror. Now, earlier on I talked about what is happening, about the big imbalance. Too many available ladies, very few available men. And how this has resulted into some very crazy competition. Now, this competition for men has also, in my view, ended up affecting men very badly. And it has affected men in many ways. One of the most alarming ways it has affected men is that it has made them sick in the brain. And I'll give you an example of a very interesting case of a man who has been jailed recently. In fact, the man has been jailed for 9 years. And why was he jailed? He was jailed for digitally penetrating the woman seated next to him on an aircraft. And seated on the other side of him was his wife. Now, this story is just mind-boggling, and we'll tackle it immediately after the very brief upcoming commercial break. Don't even think of going away. Now, this flight was from Las Vegas to Detroit, yeah. And what this man did, he was seated next to his wife, and he started doing things to the stranger, yeah, to the woman who was asleep on his other side. Yeah, you know, aircrafts, if you sit at a certain point, there are 3 seats, one on your left and one on your right if you're seated in the middle. And when the assaulted woman woke up, she found her pants unbuttoned and unzipped. And of course, she reported the incident. And the man faced trial, and now he has been jailed for 9 years, yeah, for molesting, assaulting actually, a woman. Now, digital penetration is a kind way, or the proper way, respectable way, of saying that he penetrated her with his fingers, yeah, in her most private parts. Gosh. And with his wife seated right next to him on the other side. Gosh, how does a man do this? That's why I'm saying this is the kind of sickness that is being caused amongst men. The man, who's an Indian national, is called Prabhu Ramamurthy, and he is in the US on a work visa. And of course, after finishing his sentence, he'll be deported back to India. And apparently, this Indian man is very lucky, because he would have faced up to life in prison for what he did, taking advantage of a woman in a vulnerable position. Yeah, the woman was asleep, and she probably felt very safe, yeah, seated right next to a man who was with his wife, not knowing that this man was very sick in the head. Because how does a normal person do that? Now, if you don't believe me, when I link this strange sickness, yeah, to the current social situation in many parts of the world, where women are chasing men instead of the other way around, then ask yourself a very simple question. How come, yeah, this problem was not there before? It was not as rampant as it is now, of very, very sick people, very sick men walking around. Some of them even serial murderers, yeah, who target women. Men who are sick in the mind, so much so, they look at women as objects, sexual objects, and not human beings, yeah, with feelings, yeah, with brains, etc., etc. Until next time, this is Kshs, Kumekucha.